be up shortly. Andy did. So, all right. So, could I get a motion to call the meeting to order, please?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right. Motion by Paul, second by Amy, and roll call. Paul,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. And right now we have Paul Benjamin, Amy Fiden, and David Phil from the Finance Committee, and that's a quorum. And this is being recorded. Carolyn, Linda, do you have anything you wanted to hit on before we started?
Well, we're curious. I know what you were talking about last week is which ones that you wanted to meet with. I think it was down to the major ones. Carolyn and I talked, and we thought we would try and do police next week and fire and ambulance the week after, and
Good.
and then put in with police if Alex wanted to do Hadley Media, or that might be fit in there as well.
Do you think police is going to be the shorter of the two between fire and ambulance and?
Yes.
Okay.
And we need to send a little. Carolyn and I need to meet with Mike again. It's mostly about the ambulance, because remember, they've got two parts now. It's the part that's in the budget, and then there's the we want to be prepared on the Article 2 of how they're doing with the funding
Okay.
for the special revenue.
And just real quick for the record, Shardul's here now, and Andy Klepacki as well. And Amy and Paul both had something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question was, last year we were meeting at 5:30, which I prefer, earlier in the evening. Can we go back to that before we schedule these folks?
That's rest of the board. What do you think? I don't have an issue with it, but
I'll make a motion.
5:30 stuffer for me, for sure.
I'm fine with 5:30.
Okay.
I'll get here as soon as I can.
Yeah, it's 5:36, whatever. If it's hard for you, Andy, I'm fine with whatever is easiest.
Shardul, you have any issue with 5:30 versus 6 or?
It depends on the days. So Thursdays 5:30 would be tough, but so that's why even 6 is right on the edge. So
All right, we'll leave it at 6 then.
yeah.
Okay. I'll withdraw the motion. How about that?
Okay. All right. And then Amy, you had something as well?
Yes, I'm sorry I missed last week's meeting, but I did want to, I did watch, so I did have a few things to add as far as who we would talk to, who we wouldn't. Start with like the schools. I understand that they have a very small increase, but I would like to hear from the schools and have a meeting with the schools, because I do appreciate, even though it's not a regular increase, she goes over constantly what's the incoming and outgoing, so that all the choice out, all the choice in. She usually goes over that, just the basics. She tells us about what's happening with the schools. So I do appreciate the quick report. We never really get into the details of the schools. She just gives us a report on where they stand. And also, it would be nice when she's talking to us to kind of have an idea of where they want to go, because they got a big capital coming down the road. A lot of it's going to come out of their school choice, but just to kind of have an idea of what's coming down the road would be nice too. So an annual thing that she usually does, I would really appreciate. The other one I noticed that I would really like to hear about, I would like just something brief, especially since Carolyn and Linda are here. I do like to hear a little bit in reminders about this select board, because that is a different increase, and not everybody, just as a reminder how we're changing up the select board line item. So on that, most of the town hall doesn't need to be, because like the clerk, the collector, a bunch of all those are all the same. I get that. But I think we are lowering the reserve. So the finance reserve and the select board, that's a change. So those items we should just talk about, or just have a brief thing. Also, I would like to hear about the benefits and the the debt exclusion, and what we're thinking about for principal and interest. But that's Linda's with us, so I just want to review that again, because that is a big jump. So those are just some of the things I'd like to hear about.
So do we want to lump those together, since I imagine the school won't take too long, just for the kind of the overview of ins and outs as far as school choice and things like that and capital. So I think, Linda, you were saying next week police and Hadley Media, and then the following week fire and ambulance, and then do we want to do schools and select board and benefits the following week? Would that work?
Are you asking
Yeah,
us?
I
Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking your group.
no, I want to make sure you guys have enough time to do what you need to do too. So
Okay, police and Hadley Media next week. Well, we haven't spoken with anyone, but so we'll make sure. But then fire and ambulance, and we'll invite the school and do benefits. See if Joan can come in and talk about what's going on with health insurance, if that's what you'd like.
Okay.
Okay, and then that takes us through February, but you can, no, darn, I wrote it wrong. Okay,
And also on these, I don't know if Scott's gonna be going over this, but, tonight, but how much it costs to run the buildings, such as the electricity and some of all that stuff with the buildings, if anything, because it has, I just want to have a good grasp, because people have asked me that before. How much does it cost to run the buildings, and with the new buildings and the electric and all that kind of stuff, and where we're going in case we want to look at down the road solar and some of that stuff. I don't know if that's under, Scott, is that under yours? Is that your area?
Amy, some of those electric bills are paid directly by those departments, and we don't see them in our through building maintenance. It's on the building's budget, not the DPW's.
Oh, okay.
it's the 190, I think, that's in with select board.
Oh, okay.
And Amy, I can talk a little bit whenever we address that about what the discussions we've had with solar and looking at renewable energy as well.
So do we want to do that when we talk about the select board budget at that meeting with schools? Is that okay, or do you want it sooner? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it'd be the same people. Let me just see. Yeah, electric is paid in the 190 account, Carolyn. So with it, so Jennifer and Carolyn will be the one to speak to that.
Okay.
So sure. When do we have the select board? After.
I guess that would be 3 weeks from now.
We didn't schedule those because Amy brought that up after we did the scheduling. In with the school benefits, etc.
Yep, I think that
Mhm.
works.
On the 20.
That's 2 weeks, right, David? That's 2 weeks, not 3. Am I skipping a week?
We got to do police next week, and then fire
Yep.
ambulance the following, and then select board.
I had fire, ambulance, schools, and select board on the same. Is that too much?
I don't know. I mean, guys, what do you think? Do you want to break it out, or do you want to push through and have a long meeting?
Or when do you want to be done? You want to go into March, or I think.
So yeah, schools and select board will be quick. And I also do want to remind you that if you want to hear a lot of the in-depthness, to go in depth with her budget, she does hold a public hearing as well. So you'll have another opportunity to do that. But I know she'd be more than happy to come in and summarize and ask any questions you have.
All right, so yeah, why don't we try to lump it all together and make that one meeting a little longer, because I want to have enough time to work on the warrant and everything else before town meeting gets too close.
So can I have just for the minutes, the next meeting will be, I just want to make it clear, police. Is that what we said?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the following meeting will be everything else?
Hadley
Yeah.
Media was on that meeting too.
Oh, Hadley Media with police?
We'll have to, yes,
And communications, so that includes the dispatching as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll ask him if there's any, we haven't talked to him yet, so.
Yeah, and if they can't make it, I mean, we can flip flop it
We'll,
around.
we'll switch it.
Yeah.
Fire and ambulance.
Okay. Amy, you good for minutes? All
Yep.
right. All right, so let's get started on, we're posted for discussing with DPW. Scott's here. Linda or Carolyn, do you want to say anything before Scott goes, or do you want to just turn it over to Scott?
That's good.
Turn it over to Scott.
All right. it's all
You want to, you want it on the screen, Scott?
I'm not sure what page David wants to look at first. 'Cause there's so
So,
many
pa-
pages.
39.
The full highway budget is on. Are you just focusing on the large ones tonight, or you want to talk about snow and ice and lighting and on all the little ones too?
well, I guess Scott, talk to us about, do you have any concerns about this draft budget? And then we'll just open it up to or is there anything you don't see addressed in here, and then, or that's overfunded? And then we'll open it up to questions from everybody after that.
Okay, David, I'd like to just introduce you guys to Jennifer Stewart, kind of my office manager at the DPW. She has a big part in preparing this, so I asked her to join tonight to answer any questions that that I may or may not have that she does. She does help with this. So anyways, just our operating expenses is getting so high, David, or the board, that it's becoming sometimes hard to operate. Electric bills, chemicals for the water and sewer plant, just fuel, equipment, just materials in general. So, I understand, there's money problems throughout the town, and I just hope we can make do what we have. Another thing that, I've always questioned was, as far as road work goes, we're living off the Chapter 90. I personally think the town should be giving me some money to go towards that for, do some crack sealing, do some, paint the lines or something out of the general coffers. I mean, the Chapter 90 only goes so far. So currently, David, right now in Chapter 90, we have $624,199.89. We had the additional this year. They called it the fair share, which was $197,537. So originally we only had 400,000. The work we did last year, I don't know if you're familiar with it, paving on Rocky Hill Road, Bay Road, and South Maple Street, was $442,000. We did one catch basin and pipe repair for 40, and I did some crack sealing for $72,000, and that was Chapter 90 work. So, just for an example, how much it cost. So we can't do very much with that amount of money. Just painting the lines. Last year I paid out of our budget. I had some money. We just did the yellows, which was roughly $25,000. To do the yellows and whites, you double that to be $50,000. Just want everyone to be aware that the level of service goes along with the amount of money. The residents of Hadley are used to, seeing nice, pretty lines. Well, we need to pay for that.
And that 690 that you mentioned, was that the FY24 number, or what's,
The 624 is the current balance in Chapter 90.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily, you don't lose that, just the available funding.
and that's that previous roadwork's already been paid for? Because I know it trails quite a bit. Or
Yeah, we're current on Chapter 90. Everything is paid up and reimbursed. So I've been trying to stay right on top of it. When we complete a job, when we get the vendors paid and we get the checks and everything cleared, we process that right away and get our money back immediately, as fast as we can. There's no delays on getting our money back. We have not sat on any reimbursements since I took over.
And then my question is, do we have any, I mean, I know there's always things that need work, but do we have any major issues like a street that's just absolutely falling apart that we're going to have to hit this year? Or, we seem to have a nonstop issues with culverts. Do we have anything like that that's just going to wipe that budget out? And we're not going to be able to do paving or line painting? Or are we looking all right?
Well, there's always problems, but just try to make a good, educated decision on, where to go with it. There's failing culverts and things all over town, but right now we've been kind of somewhat concentrating on the road surfaces, especially on the high speed roads. So I have some spots picked out to try to get, do some paving in the spring, but we haven't gone out the bid on that or anything yet.
Okay. Anything else that you want to bring to our attention other than the operating costs and the Chapter 90?
Another one that is going to need some work too is the trees. I've been working with Carolyn. I hired a consulting arborist to look in a section of town with me, and there's 36 or 7 trees that need attention. Some of them are trimming, some of them are full removals. There's I think 5 that need to be done relatively quick, and those are big and they need a crane, so I need to get on those right away. Which is the crane crew and stuff is, I don't know, about $8,000 a day. So there's some big expenses here that need to be somewhat addressed. That we own those trees. There's some risk involved with that.
What's our, I'm trying to find the line item for trees.
2/3 down, it says arborist/vegetation.
Oh, okay.
5312.
Okay. Okay. And I guess what's your estimate on those? Obviously, we probably can't do them all at once, and maybe some can wait. But what's your kind of ballpark figure if we had to address, if all of them fell down at once or all of them needed emergency service?
Oh Jesus! Don't say that, David. That we, like I said, there's the 5 or so I have to do right away. In a relatively timely manner. We actually started on it today. But the other ones, I just got this report back Monday, so I really haven't digested it very well yet. But we just need to come up with a game plan of, give it to our tree company and have them take a look at it and, ballpark the man hours, because we contract by the hour through the FERCog. So it's going to be talking to them kind of what they feel, they need for man hours to do it. And yeah, some of it can wait. Some of it is low risk, that, low hanging fruit, kind of thing, where we have some extra money. Yeah, we can take care of it. But the moderate stuff, we should really be doing something.
All right. Anything else you want to hit on?
One of the ones I know, like obviously the snow and ice, salt. That's another one I know it can be overspent, but just the cost of removing snow, especially with these kind of storms we get. We use quite a bit of salt to keep things in check. So just, when I go over budget on it, we kept the budget the same because it can be overspent. But right now, currently, we're overspent in some snow line items for this current year.
For just for line items, but not the total snow budget, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And another one that it's just so crazy. Jennifer can comment on it. I'm sure the street lights, the electric bills for the street lights are just all over the place. We can't even get like a standard. I thought everything was, we pay X amount of dollars per month, but our bills are not consistent at all for the street lights. They're all over the place.
I think Carolyn and Susan are working on that issue, I think, but yeah, that was my understanding. They were supposed to be consistent, basically across the board and somewhat streamlined. So
yeah, they are not. I think Jennifer might be able to. I know she was looking at that this afternoon. Can give you a little better.
They really are. I actually pulled just a couple of examples, and just going from month to month, it jumps from one of the accounts, jumps from 446 to 494 to 551, August, September, October. So they're all over the place, and it's generally up, but it is a lot. They increase every month for whatever reason.
now, could that be because of the reduced daylight as we got into the winter, or is it because of some other factor?
I suppose it could be, but it seems like going up, $50 a month seems a little excessive for that. From August of 23 to the most recent February 24, just this one example, August of 2023 was $446. This last month was $760 for the Eversource bill. It just,
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Is the rate consistent? Because Eversource, the winter rates go up.
I'm just looking at the monthly bill.
But usually in winter, they raise their rates substantially. So do we not contract for, are we not part of the community electricity, consolidation?
yeah, the aggregate agreement there. Okay, that's something we should definitely.
I'm not putting anybody on the spot. This is more of a general question to everybody. Because I know from our business operations that if you don't go and kind of hedge the electricity bills and kind of have long-term contracts, you have these great fluctuations, especially if it's and it also depends on how your meter is coded, and so that if for commercial meters you have these fluctuations, and there's also demand charges and all these other things that they might be charging. However, I do know that we've had lamps or lights from Eversource, and sometimes they're a fixed amount, but their billing is notorious for misbilling, I guess. So that it is something that we can go and reach out to them, and they could do an audit to ensure that they're making actual reads. Sometimes they do estimated, and their estimated is just like that, estimated. So it doesn't mean that it's accurate.
Charter, the street lights, there's no metering apparatus on them all. It's just we're paying some kind of flat rate.
Okay.
What that is or isn't, I don't know, and I believe it's direct service from Eversource. It's not a third party that we're doing this with.
Okay, so that might, it's probably something that we need to make an inquiry with Eversource to say, what is causing these fluctuations, because if it's supposed to be the way you explained, then it should be a fixed price regardless of, or if there's some variability in that contract, we need to determine what that variability is and why it fluctuates so much.
So we're meeting, there's a group of us that are going to be meeting with Eversource in real term to discuss the lights, because there were some lights that were off the inventory. So we want to find out why they were. There's definitely some discrepancy with ownership, but this is good. I did not know this was fluctuating like that. So this is a really important thing for me to bring to them. So I'm glad this discussion came up. So we'll definitely be following up with that.
And my understanding was that Eversource was billing all of the streetlights on one bill. So Jennifer, are you getting multiple bills?
Oh, yeah,
Oh yeah, that wasn't.
many.
So, okay. So Carolyn, I think that that list of 12 bills, 12 lights that are out there that are not accounted for are part of the multiple bills, because we should only have one bill for our streetlights per the agreement with Real Term Energy and Eversource when we purchase them. So,
Yep. Thank you.
God, I know we just had the blizzard of 2024, but do you know where we are for a bottom line number of snow and ice right now? Or Jennifer, maybe roughly.
Carolyn, you know what those numbers were? I don't have my little notebook with me. I know I told you this morning the exact numbers. Do you recall what they were?
I have 7,000 something. That's one of the numbers that I'm remembering. Negative.
Yeah. I think David, the salt itself is the one that we're negative the most on, or in the red, and just the regular vehicle maintenance aspect, or different odds and ends, kind of de-icing agents and stuff for the buildings. That one there is in the red, but not very much. It's the salt where we're really in the red. Hopefully we can make it, knock on wood, the rest of the year the salt shed's full. But we went out the other day. We'll be going out again here in an hour or so, and all that little odds and ends adds up.
I got the numbers. 7,400 is salt, and then public works, the vehicles is 2,398. Was that a balance for the maintenance for the vehicle parts?
It's a combination of the icing agent for the buildings and the vehicles and etc. Snow shovels, anything that goes along with snow.
That's how much it's over budget, those line items right at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I know maybe we can't address it this year, but this 182, 250 that we have, it's if we ever get a normal, quote unquote, normal winter again, I think we're going to be in big trouble with a hugely overspent snow and ice budget. Just because we've had, mild winters the last couple of years, and we've still kind of blown through some of those line items. So if not,
I think and obviously we contract for two pieces of equipment. I think we spent, I don't know, $5,500, $6,000 on that. It's in itself for the couple of times we went out.
Yeah, I mean that's a quarter of the line item for
yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right.
The only other one, David, I would like to talk about kind of is the building maintenance. We own all these buildings, and some are new, some are old, and doing business in those buildings to keep them up and running is very expensive. Some of the buildings we're not even maintaining. We're just, we're really in the red in a couple of spots already, and we have no money for even any kind of maintenance or painting or just little things. Our operating budget for these buildings is bare bones. Gary does as much as he can with what little he has. There's no extra money for beautification or just trying to keep on top of things, etc. Heating system in the town hall, needed some work this year. I don't know how many thousands of dollars that cost, and problems at the public safety complex, etc. Just maintaining the buildings is getting very expensive. And we really could use some more money there. But if we don't have it, we don't have it. But just throwing it out there, people ask questions about, how come the buildings, aren't getting X, Y, or Z service because we don't have the money to do so. We barely have the money to maintain them in the level they are.
Do we? Go ahead, Paul.
I just wondered, could we put a needs list, together? So at
Yeah,
least
and
we're up against. I mean,
and to Paul's point, there should be also maintenance items and then capital items. Meaning, if there's things that are replacing of equipment and things like that require capital, those shouldn't be really taken out of your operating expenses. Those should be more scheduled, kind of like what Amy was asking for with some of the schooling and some of the other things that we should really, and we've talked about this in the previous meeting, should have, each building should have a capital plan on exactly what the future capital needs are, whether HVAC or flooring or paint, or not painted, I should say, is more that's more maintenance. But in general, some of these things might have to do with capital projects, not so much maintenance.
Just say, like, in general, Shardul, like pick the senior center or whatever. We're already having failing like light fixtures, etc. You can't get those anymore; they're already obsolete. So we call an electrician or whatever to make a repair on that. You're talking $1,000, whatever, just to replace a simple light bulb already. It's just, things are that crazy.
Do we have any warranty items or service plans for those new buildings that are still in effect, or are we kind of on our own at this point?
Gary pulls a few for like the automatic door opener on the senior center. There's a maintenance plan on that. Some of the HVAC, he has, service plans for, PM maintenance. But if there's any kind of mechanical failures, that's a totally different ballgame. That's kind of like what happened at the town hall. Two heat pumps or something down in the basement, had catastrophic failures. One side has already been repaired, and they're coming Monday, actually on the holiday, to put the other side together because they have to shut down the heat for the building. So they're going to do it Monday when it's not occupied. So those are things that we weren't planning on, but we had a failure, and we have to, the building needs heat. We have to address it. There's no choice in the matter.
I guess for some of the, bringing up the light fixture or light bulbs, expensive light bulbs, if we've identified some of these items, have we asked, let's say, the electrician for alternatives? So if the light bulb is obscenely expensive, like, have we gone to say, okay, does it really make sense to go? Because there's so many options now for very energy efficient and very cost effective light fixtures that maybe there might be a form factor issue because they have to fit within a certain box or circle or whatever. But we should be at least exploring options that are kind of more value engineering some of these things that maybe they were great when some architect drew it up when the senior center was built, but it's not practical from a maintenance standpoint. I guess we should be doing some of those things, I guess.
Yeah, that's just it, Shardul. When something you design it, you build it, looks all pretty, and now we have a failure. Well, that fixture is mating, or that driver or whatever that runs that lamp,
right?
Needs to be replaced. So we get something that's compatible to fit the hole, et cetera, et cetera. And some of those light fixtures, they're buried in a ceiling. It's not easily accessible, et cetera. And don't forget, anything we do, it's prevailing wage. So contractors that come here, they're getting a premium. That's a absolute killer for us, paying prevailing wage. And I mean, it's a law. We have to pay it. but it's a terrible thing. It costs us a lot of money to pay prevailing wage.
And generally for these, I guess, larger things that, let's say we have to replace 10 light fixtures, are we going out and getting bids for them, or are we just going with one vendor?
We have a service contract with, we go out to bid for, those services for, so many years at a time.
Okay.
And Shardul, if it's okay, if I just share with you, working with Gary and Scott, I would say it's what they do really well is compare, and always, Gary is one of the most frugal persons I've ever met, and he will do whatever he can to keep the cost down. I just have to tell you, they're just excellent at it.
Anything else you want to hit, Scott?
No, not really. Everything else is pretty cut and dry, David. Just like I said, just our operating expenses going up so fast. Just tires on vehicles, and even that small stuff that you wouldn't think. We put tires on around a small little dump truck. You're talking $2,000. We don't do it every vehicle every year, but it adds up. We got one vehicle in the shop right now. I believe it's a 2018. It needs an $8,000 repair. So that's the problems that we have.
All right. Well, don't let me forget. I wanted to ask you a couple questions about your DPW and water department warrant items when we get there. But before we do that, let's work on the budget. Any committee members have any questions or any?
I have a question. And I think that this isn't a big deal. I think it's more of maybe just the line items. I just want to understand. I know that it's basically salaries, right? And I guess it's union or whatever, but I see when I looked at our line items, there was just a lot of different ones from last year. And there is some in the minus, some in the plus. So I'm just wanted someone to just tell me a little bit about it. And then I saw a new line item that just said mechanic salaries union. Is this a new union? I thought those maybe weren't taking in effect, and I'm also thinking ahead is the reason why I'm thinking this is if these are, maybe are we not going to have to worry about COLAs come the fall and things like that? So that's, I'm just kind of trying to think. If you can just help me out.
Yeah. So Amy, for whatever reason, our payroll items or personnel items were kind of all over the place. We had a lot of accounts. Some things weren't, like the mechanic was part of another, budget line item, another salary line. So Jennifer worked with Linda and Joan to properly break all those out. So everyone's salary is being paid out of the right category. So that's why you see the changes in this current year budget, like the mechanics and those things, your stipends and things like that were just kind of tucked in, and we broke them out where they are going to be paid in the proper areas. We were paying longevity and things like that out of like a professional salary line, and Jennifer can clarify a little bit more, but it was more to clean up our payroll. And in the salary, in the FY25, any kind of union COLAs are added into that budget. They're accounted for.
Okay.
Yep. DPW has also already had those negotiations. That's why theirs are covered. It's the rest of the town that isn't.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
David?
Go ahead, Linda.
David? Yeah, I've been going through while Scott was talking and printing out the year-to-dates and the ones that he's pointing out. And I do appreciate that costs are increasing and will continue to increase, that's for sure. But I also want to say that the year-to-dates through this week's payments, we're okay in those budgets. I'm not seeing the negative. I think you're anticipating that things will go in the negative, but we're not there. Snow and ice, of the 182,000 allocated, we still have 58,000 left at the end of February. And that's for payments right through this week. You have some big ones that haven't been submitted yet, Scott, or went in this week? It looks like okay.
Beth added, I think there's a salt bill for about 30,000 that's on this warrant I signed today. So the numbers that I gave Carolyn this morning were current as of bills paid today. They probably haven't been processed through year end yet, but they've been
not paid. Okay,
accounted for.
I have what's paid through today.
Yeah,
so, but you're saying you submitted some today; those will be paid next week.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So another 30.
So, yeah. So the numbers I gave Carolyn this morning are current for on our end, not necessarily yours. They haven't gone through the system yet.
Okay, we paid, there's 57,000. This is the end of February too. So whatever payments you have, I mean, I appreciate that you probably will be spending 60,000, including what you put in, but we're almost in March. So, I mean, that's what we are budgeting closely. We're not trying to undercut anything. The electricity, I'm looking at that, the street lights, and we budgeted 24 and through this week have paid 17. So again, the rates are going up, but we budgeted for increases. So is there any concern, Jennifer and Scott, that it's going to exceed that budget, or that there's something wrong with what we budgeted for next year? Because we look to be covered well for this year, and that's what we used for budgeting for next year too.
I guess, Linda, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Scott. That's all right.
The unanticipated rate changes, I guess, that we don't know what they are. Just it seems like every month the bills are going up, and nothing's consistent. So that's where we're kind of putting this out there that it may or may not be enough, depending on what the problem is with Eversource.
Okay, well, look into that, but we're not in a problem situation right now. Only about a quarter of what was budgeted for 24 has been spent through the end of February. And building maintenance for 257,000 was budgeted this year, and there's 115,000 left. That seems about right for the end of February too. I'm more I think that there's concern about what's not being done, but you're talking about these accounts going in the negative, and honestly, I'm not seeing it on the line items or the bottom line that you're there. I mean, it looks okay to me, and it was not our intention to undercut something so that work was not getting done. We were basing it on where the actual spending is this year. So, I mean, we can keep an eye on it, but the way you were talking, I was getting alarmed, but I feel much better now having printed the year to dates.
I think once the the electricity after that mess with Real Term and Eversource gets straightened out, I think we'll be in even better shape there than we are now.
Should be. It should be.
Yeah.
And to Linda's point, I'm just looking at the years past from 2021 to the new budget today. The overall budget is up 60%. So I guess I'm not contesting it, or I'm not disputing that you guys need the money. I'm just trying to, I think to Linda's point, is understand what additional, I guess, resources are we looking at, I guess, future expenses? Because if we're already 60% up in 3 years, how much more are we going to be looking for in the next 3 years? I guess because that's a concerning trend in my book, in seeing those increases go up pretty substantially in just like I said, in 3 years.
Yeah, just Chardot, just like I said, our operating expense, just buying materials, etc. Like a fire hydrant, for instance. Our current stock was a couple years ago. We haven't bought any, but say we bought fire hydrants at whatever $3,000. I think the current going rate on them now is about, correct me, Jennifer, if I'm wrong, what we build about 8,000 a piece.
No, that's right.
So, when we need to order fire hydrants for our water system, we need to order, their special order. Everything is, we got to order 6-8 fire hydrants at, whatever, $7,000-8,000 a piece. that adds up fast. And that doesn't include any kind of fittings or any other things that go along with it, valves to make any repairs. Anything we touch costs big money, infrastructure wise. We have, you know, repair clamps, whatever, to wrap around these pipes in emergencies. You can't buy one for under $500.
For the fire hydrant, the water budget? Where which
What's that?
budget is, which budget is?
That
the fire
I'm just
hydrant?
referring to water, you know, just,
Oh.
you know,
Oh.
a pump in the plant. You know, we need to pump another 2 pumps in the plant worth $16,000. That doesn't include any kind of labor. That's just parts. Just it's expensive to operate.
Oh, without a doubt. And trust me, I'm not disputing that. My concern is how much, where are we headed towards? And are we seeing some of these things? Are we going to see a more stabilized, I guess, budget going forward? Or are we going to, or should we go and kind of brace ourselves for another, you know, substantial increase in the next 3 years, like we've seen in the past 3 years? And I know you haven't, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just trying to understand exactly what we're facing in terms of budgetary amounts, because it's a lot of money.
I haven't seen the prices of anything kind of flatline yet. It seems like every time we buy something, the prices increased. So it's kind of hard to predict what, you know, the fair market value, I guess, of things are going to do. Just like currently, just everything is, you know, increasing still. Just even like chemicals for the water plant, we were running off chemicals still from last year. We haven't bought another load of chemicals. I know that's expensive. It's contracted stuff out, and sometimes if there's a chemical problem at a plant or something, there's a fire, etc., they don't even honor their contract prices. There's language in the contracts that they don't have to honor that. Like if we order, you know, a pail of chlorine that should be $100, but, you know, supply and demand kind of things come into play. If there's a problem, etc., it can go up to $500. Just, it's hard to determine like what real numbers are. Just everything is just, there's, you know, you buy a light bulb today for $1, tomorrow it's $3.
So, and this may be a hard question to answer, putting you on the spot, but with the increase in material costs and even taking into account the increase, like Shardo pointed out, over the last 3 years in your overall budget, are we making progress to kind of knock out some of these punch list items and take care of some of our problems? Or are we barely treading water? Are we going backwards as far as, you know, street maintenance and trees and building maintenance? Because those seem to be the three big.
I think we're just maintaining the current level of service, David. We're not gaining and we're not necessarily losing, but we're definitely not gaining. We're just kind of maintaining, you know, status quo, that, you know, the water plants pumping water, the sewer plants, you know, processing, you know, wastewater. We're not, you know, making any improvements. I mean, we had to do a few things in the sewer plant for regulatory problems we were having, but we're not, you know, looking at, you know, a 20-year-old pump and saying, hey, you know, that thing's 20 years old, you know, let's be proactive and, you know, change it out. We don't do that. We haven't been making any repairs till things are broken. We really can't afford it. And then our current budget items, whatever, I hate to say it, we kind of nurse things along and, you know, wait till May or whatever, see what kind of shape we're in, and then, you know, fix all the stuff that's been band-aided just to make sure we have money if there's a catastrophic failure, that we can afford to fix it. So you look at the account, yeah, it's got, you know, $30,000 left in it, but a lot of that money I already have, you know, anticipations for. We just haven't done anything because we're kind of nursing something along as long as we can to make the repair at the end of the budget cycle. So, you know, our budget's at zero for a, you know, a small amount of time in case we have a catastrophic failure.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Scott? Or Jennifer?
Um,
Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to, on Scott's Highway, he says they're just maintaining. I want to explain that there has been an increase. Some of the increases have been in adding ditches to the highway budget, which remember that was something that was well behind. We had an article to do a catch up, and now he has ditches in the budget to be handled annually at 15, and then now we're going up to 17.5. Another area, Scott, you didn't used to have in the budget is dikes, handling the dike maintenance. That's in there. So if you see both of those items, by the way, are about halfway down highway budget on page 40. Dike survey and maintenance, that's in at 30,000 a year. So there are some new things that have been added to his budget. It's not simply the percentage increase that you mentioned, Shardul. So I want to just qualify that a little bit. And the third thing I want to mention, the jump in his budget, we ended up, because of the issues, and they have the fuel down there, that we ended up putting the fuel for the entire town into the highway budget. So his fuel costs that were a highway before maybe 50,000 now are over 100,000, because he's also paying police and fire and the inspectors and council on aging. We felt that was a better way to handle the fuel, because if it's going to be an increase, we're just increasing it in one budget instead of looking for how we're going to increase that line or that amount in 6 budgets. So we felt it was under better control that way. So it's not just that percent increase, but also because we've added some things to it that were not in there before.
Okay.
And I'll just say, I find that decision kind of confusing, because how can Scott be in charge of that and he has no control over how that's being spent? That's it just as an operating. It's not fair
They
to
buy
him.
fuel for the town in the first place, though. They buy all the fuel.
Oh, I understand they buy it, but there's also a consumption aspect of that, and he's going to be responsible for the consumption aspect. You buy as much as you're going to be using. So that's just my little, I guess. I heard that, I think, last year, and I thought it was very confusing, or not fair, because how can he be in charge of a budget item that he's not really controlling the consumption of?
So can I address that? So Shardul, when I got here, there was a lot of things like electricity, utilities, gas, fuel, some things that were that we were spending a lot of time on different staff in each department, processing the bills, and all of that. So often in communities, to increase efficiency, whatever department is providing that product, for example, fuel, then the COA for their van, we take it out of their budget and we put it into Scott's. We're not leaving that money in the COA and then making the DPW own that on top of their whole budget. So everything that you see that's been centralized, such as fuel, has been taken out of other independent departments like police and COA. So it's not in their budget anymore. So he's not penalized for it. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's
my point is that it looks, I guess, from optics standpoint, it kind of looks like from us, we don't know what's really.
No, I'm glad you brought that up so I could explain
the fuel
it.
that's under his control and the fuel that's under the police department's control, or the library control.
Yeah, you would just see that money in the police budget. So the bottom line of the whole general budget, it's going to stay the same. It's just now that it's in DPW. The efficiency is what you're also looking at saving, of having staff time do all of these multiple different departments. So.
No, I understand that aspect. I just don't understand in terms of monitoring. How do you go and kind of hold people if something is out of whack in some other department? How is that, I guess, monitored? And that's maybe more operations that you're in charge of, or somebody in town hall. But I'm just saying, from our standpoint, we see a line item that he can't control. It seems just seems strange to me. I guess
Well,
that's my little soapbox moment. So
Well,
I'll shut up.
I'm hoping that clarifies it. I don't want to, so for example, we would only use something like fuel. You can't control how many rides that the seniors are asking for. They get a general idea every year and they budget for that. And that's how we budget within Scott's. You can't, with the police cruisers, you're going to get a general idea of how much they use. So we make sure that that's in Scott's budget. So there is a justification for all of the costs that come out of there.
So I'll get to Dan. I see your hand. I'll get to you in just a second. Sorry to make you wait. I'll bring this up with Chief Mason when it's his turn, but I had concerns about the fuel because, you know, for example, we have 5 police details a day out there with Baltazar every day, pretty much on Route 9. And so that's 5 vehicles that are sitting there idling, you know, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, pretty much 5 days a week. And my understanding is that police detail money goes back into the general fund, correct, when it's paid by the contractors, Linda?
Yeah, we asked about that last year, and I think Linda offered an explanation because there's grant money and or money coming back for a project, and how did that, in particular, came to the police detail funds. And Linda, if you want to chime in on how that money gets.
It's not a direct payment for the fuel, but it's there is a flat fee for the usage of the administrative overhead
Okay.
cost,
I
besides
just-
the officers for the use of the car.
because if you look at, you know, even compensating for changes in gas prices, but if you look at the, you know, fuel use by the police department in, you know, the year before the Route 9 construction project started, I'm sure you'd see a drastic increase for all those police detail cars that are being filled up every single day for police details versus, you know, a typical year when those 5 vehicles aren't out there running every single day. So
It's still tracked by department, and I think, Jennifer, you give them a report each month, don't you, of their usage? So
all right.
it's not just a big, you know, a big pool of where they just pay the bill and nobody has to worry about it.
Okay.
But they were doing that already, and then they were getting reimbursed for it, and that's the part that we were trying to streamline. Yes, DPW buys all the bill, they track who's using it, and they get a report. So we found that to be more efficient and then they send a bill to the police department, and then the police department submits the bill, and the bill gets paid, and the payment goes over to DPW, and DPW takes the check and they put it into the funds again. So that's our rationale. We're streamlining the process, and I don't think that we've experienced the downside. It's a legitimate downside to point out, Shardul, but I don't think that's what's being experienced. There's lack of monitoring or awareness of what's being spent. I think they're very aware.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think anybody's saying Jennifer or Scott's not doing a good job monitoring. I just, I can understand where Shorter was coming from as far as, yeah. Dan, you've been waiting a long time.
Yeah, just a quick reminder on the snow and ice budget. If you appropriate more money, you have to appropriate at least that amount in the next fiscal year as well, or you're not allowed to declare a snow emergency. So if you were to raise this year's budget from 182 to 215, you have to appropriate 215 in fiscal 26 as well in order to declare the emergency.
So it almost makes sense to tightly budget and then have the ability to, which I'm assuming that's what you guys are doing. So that way we can declare a snow emergency and overspend the line item, right? Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. I appreciate that, Dan. Anybody else before we move on? All right. Go, Paul. You got something?
No, good report. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you pull up the warrant, Linda, on the screen?
Yeah.
The draft.
Just to know, doing sewer and water too, or you're all set with that based on what he said?
Scott, do you have any major concerns with sewer or water as the budget stands? You're muted, but I think you shook your head no.
Sorry, no.
Okay. All right. So then unless anybody has any questions for sewer or water, we'll pass over that. Okay.
Alex, are you there? I need to be able to share.
I do have just one quick comment to make on and just a quick question. So for sewer, we were hurting for so long, where we were getting worried about it at one point, and then we increased the bills. Is that why we're in good shape now? Is because of that increase? We're looking good, because there was some, we were really worrying about that for a little while.
That's correct.
Okay.
And read the section of the budget book. But that's correct. At the same time, I mean, the increases came just in time because we've also not had the usage is down. So the rate went up, but the usage is down. We still have a bit more money than we did, but not as much as was being anticipated. So that's something to keep an eye on every year. But yes, definitely, we're still using reserves to balance it this year. Not as much, and we're going in the right direction.
That sounds good.
What
Can
would
I
you like?
also- I was just going to add to that, and Scott might talk about it with one of the articles. Our asset management grants that we're doing for wastewater and water are going to include a rate study to help pay for some of these capital expenses. So I just wanted to add that.
So I know we have the filter membranes in here, which is something we do every year. So I don't really have any questions on that.
Those are the only thing with those, David. The price just keeps going up and up and up and up. So that's why the amount keeps increasing. I gave Linda some numbers a few months back, and she adjusted it according to today's cost. But I'm sure in the next couple of years you'll see it increase in that again too.
Right.
Yeah, wasn't it like 130,000 or 110,000 just a short while ago for that membrane article?
Yeah, it'll probably be, I bet you, close to $1 million when I think it's like 2 years out still.
And that's an every 5-year purchase, right? For 10 years?
10 or I believe 10. But if we ever got, that's where this like Mount topic for another day, David. But we got Mount Warner back on, we could, shut Callahan down a bit where, things would last a lot longer. Would getting Mount Warner up and running would be huge to save us some money.
Okay. I guess we go down to, I saw for the tanks and then also for culvert. Are those the only two DPW related ones? Yep, there it is.
18, Article 18.
Yep. So what's the story with that?
Go ahead, Scott.
So the water tanks, we have in our report from the DEP, we have to do something with the water tanks. So we're coming up with, replacement looks like the way that the town wants to go. And we're still in design phase. So they're estimating around $9 million project to do that. So there is some, I'm not sure if you want to call it a grant, but through the USDA, there's some loan opportunities and, some grant money available. What those percentages and amounts are, you don't know until you make a commitment to them. So in essence, we're looking for, $9 million, but if we apply through the USDA, they could give us 20-30%. So that would bring that number down. But for us to apply, we have to have, on paper, the full amount available.
And what's, I know this will come up at town meeting and wherever else, but what's the issue with them? Is it corrosion issues? Is it change
Yeah,
in technology?
corrosion, life expectancy, because they're bare steel tanks. They're just, met their life expectancy. Hoyoke's got a little time left. It's not quite as old as Warner, but or it might be vice versa. But don't hold me to that. But just it'd be better just to do them both together. There is a little bit of savings doing them together, and the firms. We would still have to do a paint job and everything else, whether we were replacing or not. And the painting of the tanks, David, is millions of dollars. So at this point in the game, it's just more cost prohibitive to replace them.
And so they're bare steel on the inside, but obviously painted on the outside. And that's what
They're painted on the inside too, but just there's some rust problems and this and that, and they call it bare steel, but it has paint, but just what that steel is and what the strength of it is, and et cetera, from freeze thaw cycles for the last 30 years, and the elements, and bad welds and seams and things like that. Just it comes to a point where just the DEP just won't let you use them anymore. They want them replaced.
And so I'm assuming this is one of those things that if we don't pay for it, eventually DEP will say, we're going to yank your water license, right?
Yes, this is one of those things that we really don't have a choice on. It's in our, sanitary survey that they come every 3 years and look at our water assets and make determination of what they like and what they don't. And, the last one, the water tanks were noted the time before, but this time here, they hit hard on it. And, we had the tanks, a diver, or they put a robot in the tanks and, looked at them, etc. They found some issues, and there's other things that go with it, ladders and accessibility, and everything has to be brought up to current standards. And when you put a price tag on all that, I think it was around $3 million to rehab them, and then eventually you're still gonna have to replace them. So you could be throwing $3 million, and then you'll buy yourself, however many years out of it. But at the end of the day, you still have a bare steel tank that's going to need to be replaced. That's why in our conversations, and the select board agreed that replacement would be more feasible, a long-term solution.
And I'm assuming this 9 million covers the design and construction phase both.
Yeah, we have design going on right now. The 9 million's construction. Okay. And everything that goes along with that, them overseeing the job, and et cetera, procurement, and, they take care of everything.
All right, and then here's a question for Linda. As far as a funding source, obviously this is going to have to be a debt exclusion article because of the dollar amount, right?
It's not going to be paid out of cash, and the reserves are the water reserves are healthy, but not this healthy. So yes, it would be borrowing. So the issue is, and this is something to go before select board, is this going to be a borrowing to be paid out of water, or is this borrowing to be paid out of taxation, or a combination of the two? And so some of it depends on how much the total borrowing is. I don't think, based on what Scott has explained tonight and in the past, if we have a grant or forgiveness, or Scott, I can't remember. Is this a grant that they give us the money up front to spend, or we have to borrow it, spend it, and then they reimburse us? You know how it works?
They give us the money, Linda, right up front, but how much their match is percentage wise, you don't know until you're committed and signed on a dotted line.
So we won't be borrowing 9 million. We just don't know how much less than that we will be borrowing. So I was just concerned we had to borrow it all, and then they give us a reimbursement after it's spent. But okay, so yeah, there's a lot to work out here, Carolyn.
Yeah, and there's the advantage. This is the USDA loan as well, right, Scott?
Yes.
It is, and he's right. We won't know what the interest rate would be, but it does have a much longer, whether that's a choice that you as the, the treasurer would want to make. You have it's a much longer period to pay off. That's the advantage of using the USDA loan.
Okay.
That may or may not be what is advantageous, but I just want you guys to know that that's an option.
Is
So-
this definite for Springtown meeting, or is this one of the ones you're considering for fall? Because that's a lot, we have a lot of information to get before annual town meeting on this.
The consultants suggested that we put it on in the spring so we can keep everything going with this, because it's time is the essence on this, because it's a timing project too, where we need to do the work early fall into the winter, so we
Right.
I
So to
guess-
go back to your question, David, if any portion of it is debt exclusion, that involves going to a ballot. But if it's going to be out of water, it doesn't need to go to a ballot. It doesn't go to a ballot question. So it would be all handled at Springtown meeting. So there's a lot to do between now and Springtown meeting if this is going to go forward.
Okay. And I'm assuming, Scott, if this was, we'll just say it was approved at Springtown meeting and it passed that exclusion, I mean, what's the time frame for construction? Are we talking a year? Are we talking 3 years? Yeah,
I believe it was like 2 years out, David. By the time they finished going through all the permitting and building the tanks, etc. So I believe it would be construction of not this fall but the following fall if everything went all right. Like I said, timing, it's a timing thing too on this. We can't be without those water tanks in our peak demand times.
So we're talking like FY27 budget maybe as far as borrowing?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not at the office, David. I have more information there. I forget when Ty and Bond presented to the select board, right in the first of the year, they had all that information, and I just don't recall off the top of my head what it is. They presented all that, a construction time frame, and all that information they had.
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the dollar amount and the timing and everything else that's going on for buildings and projects and everything else, so hey, this maybe is a select board thing, but is it possible, Linda, that we put that infrastructure fee on the water bills a while back to help with the actual system maintenance of water and sewer, and we had divvied it up between water and sewer percentages over the years. Is this something that we could put, and maybe for Dan too, is there a fee that could be added to a water bill that would sunset after the term of the loan, so that way we could tell people that, hey, look, your water bills are going up, but your taxes are not. Every water user is going to pay for it, and it's going to this specific purpose, and when the loan's paid off in 20 years, 30 years, whatever, it's going away. Dan, go ahead.
One of the provisions of debt exclusions that was passed a long time ago is that if this passes at Springtown meeting, the select board can vote to put this as a debt exclusion on the taxes without having to have a ballot vote. Because this is something that would raise the water rates. And we've done this in the past when we built the water treatment plant. Half of the debt goes on the tax rate, half of it comes out of water. So this is something that could be looked at when the time comes, that it could be borrowed and it could be half on the tax rate, half on water rates, or all on the rates, all on taxes. It's something that the selectmen would have to look at or could look at.
Yeah, and the reason I asked about that fee or, applying it to a water bill, because if we're going to do any of these other projects that we have on our horizon for other things that are going to be debt exclusions, I mean, we're going to start adding up to some big numbers here. So that's why I was wondering about whether we could cover it with as with water bills alone. Okay, but I guess Scott gave you a lot of work to do.
It's possible. It's one of the options.
David, you're only talking about not quite $100,000 with the infrastructure fee. So it's small dollars. If you're adding $5 onto that, you know, you can do the math. So
Yep. And I'm just wondering if we did something like that over I don't know how long Scott said it's a longer borrowing period. So if it was a 30-year bond or a 30-year borrowing to pay for the water tank, would a, you know, $10 fee or what, I don't even know where the numbers go. Would it pay for itself during that time period without affecting the tax rate? So, Dan, go ahead.
One thing to look at too is the water treatment plant, I believe, was built in 2006. So it's probably coming off the tax rate in 2026, which will be 2 years from now. And some of that could get added in without really impacting the tax rate or the tax bill.
Good timing on that, actually. Yeah.
What's the lifespan of these tanks moving forward? Just curious.
The new ones are, you know, in the 50-year or so range. Pretty. The technology is a lot different, Paul. You know, it's glass. We're looking at glass fused and stuff. So there's a you know, actual piece of glass between the, you know, water and the, you know, line. So the water is never really touching the metal. So it, you know, they're saying 50, 60 years. So it could even go longer if it's maintained properly. Maintenance is obviously the key.
Okay, thank you.
And when you talk about maintenance, would that be something that can be estimated on an annual basis, you know, like buildings? If we can
Yes,
build
yeah,
that
we
in
do.
up front.
Yeah, like
Not play
you
catch
have
up?
diodes and things in the tank and, you know, general pressure washing, things like that. So the maintenance cost is, you know, relatively small. Andy, just, you know, be something in our regular budget that we you know, we have to do that stuff now. We have to dive the tanks and do inspections and stuff currently. So that's really not going to change.
Well, I just want to make sure that those preventative maintenance things are included up front. Like with a building, you know, even though it's a brand new building, it's going to have costs up front and more as it ages.
Yeah, the maintenance that are on those water tanks we currently do, but it'll just be done in a different way with a different style tank.
I have a question. Will they be getting rid of the old tanks?
Yes, they would be removed.
I know a scrap metal guy that would probably take that for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Take it to retirement.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions on 18 before we move on? All right. I guess 19, is that DPW as well?
Yeah. Yes. So that's we're looking to do a water asset management plan. We currently have one going with the sewer department, and we're looking to do one with the water department. So the whole cost of the grant is $155,000, and our cost would be $31,000 cash and $31,000 in kind. So I guess in the end of the day, we're looking for $31,000.
And so, what's the benefit of this? Does it
to look at the system, David, and like give us an understanding of what our priorities are as far as, you know, things at Callahan that need to be, you know, that's 20 years old already. What do we need to do there? Sections of town pipeline, you know, where should we be, you know, doing some pipe work and replacement, you know, really, you know, continue the project at, you know, Mount Warner, things of that nature. Just give us a sense of direction of prioritization, and they do cost analysis and they look at the rates in this project too. So we would really have something for like a real capital plan, looking some years out of, you know, hey, we got to do more pipeline on South Maple Street. This is, you know, priority 1, priority 2, you know, whatever they categorize that in. We really don't have anything now. It'd be a good a bit of information for capital reasons.
Any questions on 19?
And that would be out of water reserves, a straight payment out of water reserves.
And we found with these grants too, David, just for clarification, on paper, you know, we need availability of $155,000, but you know, we only need really 31. And that's, you know, it's weird how they make us pay and then we get our money back, kind of thing. It's so you need the money up front.
All right, anything else on 19? All right, it's like the last one for you is 22.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't update that yet, Scott. You can give them an updated number.
Yeah. So I applied for a grant for an MVP grant, and we're looking at, you know, a culvert at East Street, 136 East Street, just the Nabala Farm and Young Men's Club kind of area. So the first grant was, you know, design and et cetera of this project and look at it to see what has to be done. So so we're kind of getting close to apply for, you know, a construction grant to you know, actually do the repairs, you know, for phase 2. Our chances of this are pretty good. They usually don't give you a phase 1 grant without funding phase 2. So we're looking to keep moving forward on that and get that head wall there fixed and the culvert replaced. So they're looking, again, we're still not there. It's still in the design phase, but we need something on the warrant so we can apply for the construction grant. So they're looking at, originally they thought it was 900,000, but they just moved it to 1.3 million, and we'd be looking for $350,000, you know, match. So that 270 number should be 350.
Linda, any ideas where this could possibly be funded from if it was to pass?
If it 350, are you thinking of that out of water reserves, Scott?
No, that's kind of like a highway department thing, Linda. It's a drainage culvert.
Oh, okay. Well, probably borrowing then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have any unspoken for free cash?
Maybe in the fall.
Okay. Well, I mean, we need the commitment at this point to move forward to get the grant. We don't necessarily have to spend the money. So
They have this strange, we have to sign something saying that the money has been, what did they say, authorized, available, or something like that, Scott, right?
Yeah.
I have to sign something, and it doesn't include, we'll have it by the time we need it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the authorization has to be in place, or another fund. Sometimes we've straddled a few things. When we came up a little short, or the price went up after the fact, we've said, oh, this much will come out of the budget. And we sort of hitched a few things together. That was back when we had, for a while there, we had an ARPA balance that would sort of, it was committed, and then the project didn't cost so much. So we had a little extra money, so we got to use it for those things. I wish we had that again. That was helpful.
All right.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
All right. Any questions on 22?
I think that's it, right? That's it.
I think that's it for DPW. All right. Well, then I guess. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Jennifer. If any members have general questions for them before they go, otherwise, I think we got a lot to digest, and we talk about it in future meetings. Unless you want to hit on anything now. All right.
Sounds like it's time for a motion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, Paul, you're on.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
A second.
All right, motion by Paul, second by Amy. Roll call it. Paul,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Shardul,
Yes.
and myself, yes.